Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me for pricing. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we're discussing a watch that was launched in 1989, and it was designed to declare that Jaeger-LeCoultre, La Grande Maison, in the Vallée du Joux, was back. A commitment to mechanical watchmaking, and complicated mechanical watchmaking at that. This is the Grand Reveil. It is a Memovox wrist alarm and a perpetual calendar in a 41mm yellow gold case. The timepiece measures 14.7 millimeters thick, from lug to lug, 48.2 millimeters, with a 20mm spacing between the lugs. We'll throw the watch on my 16cm circumference wrist, and I should mention that as a JLC collector, I've thought about buying this watch many times. The watch is gorgeous. To my eye, it is the epitome of late 80s excess, and that's exactly what you get with this unusual case with its fluting and its protuberances. But it's easy to wear, as being only 48.2 millimeters lug to lug, you can fit it on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. It's not as thick as it looks, and it wears like a dress watch, which means with a sloped case flank, you should be able to fit it underneath the cuff, even though it's by no means ultra thin. Taking a look at the strap, you can see this is a brand new JLC factory strap. Calfskin on the bottom, no crimping, no gouging, large rectangular scale alligator leather on the top, gloss finish, and it has a edge profile that's folded with a monotone stitch, and as you can see, it comes with a yellow gold pin buckle to match its case. This watch features pre-1995 hallmarks on its side. So the model was made for quite a few years into the 90s, and you can see, just based on the hallmarking with the old Helvetic head, it was made before the midpoint of 1995, I should say, and after the 1989 launch. So you've got about a 6-year window just based on the hallmarking alone. Everything on this watch is extravagant. You can see that the lugs were built separately from the case and then welded on, which is a very old school and laborious way of making a case. There's a lot of fluting, there's flares, there's gadroons, there's swells, and then there are these vintage sort of inspired crowns that have a pronounced domed profile on their outer face. The one that is down at 8 o'clock is actually a pusher adjuster that's used to adjust the perpetual calendar, and this is the IWC Kurt Klaus perpetual calendar system. JLC made a major change, realizing that people would accidentally set the watch days, weeks, or even months ahead when it was a quick set in the crown. JLC modified the movement in-house to include a pusher adjuster, so you would toggle it one day at a time. Everything moves in sync: the day, the date, the month, the moon phase, even the year and the decade. The idea being that you don't actually have to look anything up. You just set the correct date and everything else moves in sync. You don't have to look up what the moon phase is for your day. It's mechanically programmed. But again, here's the problem. With the IWCs, people would adjust them rapidly using the quick set without realizing how far ahead they were setting the watch. As a result, the watch would actually have to go back to Switzerland to be set backwards, or it would have to sit until time had caught up with the calendar. JLC uses a pusher system that solves that problem. But it creates another problem to look for when buying one of these watches online. Because the calendar moves only in one direction, it has the years, it has the decades. If you change this thing to reflect 2023, 24, 25, again, it doesn't turn back. But if you also see one that says 1993, 1992, 1991, there's an awful lot of adjustment that's got to be done to get that watch up to the present day. Remember, 365 pushes of the trigger per year. So if this little indicator has some date that's decades removed from the current time, keep that in mind when you're shopping online for one of these watches, because the watch is going to have to go back to Switzerland. There's no way the pusher adjuster system will survive thousands of presses to catch it up with the current year. You're just going to have to bite the bullet and send it back to Switzerland, which is why you want to see these things within 1 or 2 years of the current year when you buy them used. Now, the dial is beautiful. It's a combination of red, white, gold, and as you can see, a lustrous blue. The printing is blue outboard, and there's a couple of things going on. You can see the Arabic numerals for the hours, but then you can see these 5-minute intervals that are used for setting the alarm system. Moving inboard, you can see that there are polished yellow gold chapter rings for the sub-registers and a nice cruciform symmetry to the way the registers are laid out. We have a coaxial moon phase indicator down at 6 o'clock. It's accurate to 122 years. The perpetual calendar is accurate until the year 2100. But then we have this little 24-hour indicator. So that hands lets you know whether you're looking at, for example, a time approaching midnight or a time approaching midday. And you can see, because the hand is almost to 24, we're approaching midnight. See that little red zone from 22 to 3? That is the time during which you do not want to use the pusher adjuster to adjust the perpetual calendar. You want to advance the hours manually to make adjustments during that danger zone. Get out of the danger zone and then use the pusher adjuster. So this is a handy AM/PM reference, but it's also there to prevent you from damaging the watch. Now the timepiece has skeletonized hands, which make it easier to see the sub-registers underneath. And then we have yellow gold Memovox hand and yellow gold applique indices. We're going to do a quick loom shot here. Take note, though it's not signed T, this dial, hands and dial base, are original factory tritium, so they glow immediately after the light goes out, but they fade quickly. This is the real thing. This is not photina. Now, speaking of the operation of the watch, I'm going to demonstrate this. Obviously, it's a perpetual calendar, but it is also designed to wake you up when you need. The Memovox alarm is an age-old JLC complication, and this was the first JLC Memovox to have a gong made of bronze that was hung separately from the case band. So instead of simply striking the case flank internally for a chirping cricket sound, here we get a nice resonant ring. It is very loud, and it will wake you up. If that's the yardstick for measuring a good wrist alarm, this one passes with flying colors. Now, internally, we have a movement that's a combination of the JLC 918 Memovox movement and the Kurt Klaus perpetual calendar system. You can see it is beautifully decorated on the reverse side. All this is water resistant to 30 meters, and the case back itself is a work of art. But inside, we have caliber 919, automatic winding, 45-hour power reserve, 8 beats per second, 36 joules, hand adjusted in 6 positions. It has a 22-carat winding mass, which is very impressive. The Kurt Klaus perpetual calendar system. And of course, that hanging bronze gong, which was inspired by Japanese temples. That's actually where that idea came from. These watches are absolutely special. Very low volume, very low production, and entirely handcrafted. They marked the resurrection of Jaeger-LeCoultre coming out of the quartz crisis. This was truly the comeback watch for one of the great manufacturers in the business. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.